Yeah, so three life lessons from Aikido, and when I teach the beginners course at the Integral Dojo, it's a 6 week, sometimes 4 weeks, sometimes 6 week course, and basically we teach them just a handful of techniques. We really give people a taste of what Aikido can offer, and if they want to continue, they join the course. But what I do give them, hey Kelly, how are you? Nice to see you. I do give them what I call life lessons. So even if they're only doing the 4 week course, hopefully they're going to continue Aikido for a longer period. But even if they're only doing the 4 or 6 weeks, I want to give them something that they can take away. And this is basically three lessons that the whole 6 weeks is organized around. So even if they leave Aikido and they're not going to learn how to, the falling down or the doing a technique doesn't really mean anything to them. These three life lessons are something that they take with them, and these are three life lessons. They're simple to get, not so easy to do, and they're things that you can do, or certainly things you can practice in all places, at all times, and through all circumstances, and they're key to Aikido practice. In fact, I would say that unless we can somehow develop into these three perspectives, the essence of Aikido won't reveal itself. The essence of Aikido won't manifest. In one sense, you can also say that you won't be doing the essence of Aikido, but the essence, really, the kind of the core essence of Aikido is not something we do. When we have true awase, that's when you and I, or self and other, kind of come together into pretty close to being either a system or a sense of oneness. And in the system, you're a cog. It's really it's too mechanistic. You're a part of the system. Now, you may have certain agency, but the system also has agency. So that's why it's difficult to say doing these three principles or these three teachings. You can also say from a state of oneness, there really is no sense of self and others. So there's no agency at all. It's all awase, or harmony, is just happening in the midst of conflict, or conflict arises and harmony is the result. So it's tricky. It's difficult to say to do these three lessons, these three practices. Hey Sabina, nice to see you too. Sabina's joined the call. So it's difficult to say to do these three practices, but let's just we have to use some language. And in terms of our practice, it is okay to practice these three. So, three life lessons from Aikido. Lesson number 1, from stress to center. Okay, so from stress to center. Anytime one boundary moves up against and begins to rub or press or try to occupy the same place of another boundary, and that could be my daughter, coming in and chasing an insect in the middle of the Facebook Live, or it could be a disagreement with somebody else, or it could be different political views, it could be different worldviews, it could be a physical confrontation, heaven forbid, but these things happen. It could be any type of disagreement with somebody, or, belief system or whatever. Anytime two boundaries try to occupy the same space at the same time, they rub against each other, it creates stress, and it creates conflict. Now, from that conflict, fear arises, stress arises. Our system, our sense of self will start to become stressed. And in the moment of stress, our job as Aikidoka, our practice, when you have the wherewithal and the capacity to actually practice in that moment, the first step, the first practice, the first important lesson, what I call life lesson, is from stress to center. It's so easy to remember, from stress to center. It's like a mantra, from stress to center, from stress to center. And moving from stress to center is the first life lesson in Aikido. And just think about that. When you go, let's just take the dojo first. You might be beginners. They're learning to fall down. They're learning new moves. They're learning, they see the teacher, or they see a demonstration. Everybody's moving so naturally and in such harmony. And then they get out there and they feel kind of, with two left feet and awkward and everything. It doesn't feel very natural at all, and it begins to be stressful, even for a beginner when they walk in. Just walking into a dojo, it's a very stressful experience. I remember when when I first met my Aikido, when I met not my first Aikido teacher, but my core Aikido teacher, Saito Sensei. Before class, I was going to go to Japan to see him, and he was in the States a few months before. I flew from Texas to San Diego to do a seminar of his, and everything was fine. And 10 minutes before class, I had to run out and throw up. And I came back on the mat, and I'm just, so stubborn. I was going to do the class, and I'm sweating and everything. And I started training, and within 5 minutes, I was fine. But it was knowing that's a meeting that's going to happen. I had a similar experience with my first meditation, with my core meditation teacher, Sayadaw Pandita. Whenever we kind of move into a new situation, and it requires the system to change, like in a conflict, it's going to be stressful. And that move for us is to move from stress to center. Stress takes us up and out into the fight, flight, freeze, one way or the other. You may move away from stress, you may move towards it to control it, or you may space out. These are the fight, flight, freeze responses. But the practice is in those three situations, first to understand what our type is and how we operate, but then to move from stress back into center. Take a deep breath and center. Centering is an internal practice. It's like mindfulness is an internal practice. You might do it with the children, you might do it when you're working, you might do it in many situations, but it's basically shifting your attention inward, away from the source of the stress, inward, and kind of creating a capacity of awareness within you, and letting the energy move down into the body. You can think centering in the ground, and you can, think of an anchor pulling you down, descending energy. There's lots of techniques. Breathing is very good. I'm not talking about techniques in this Facebook Live, because there's many techniques. I'm talking about the lesson, and this is something to remember: from stress to center. And from stress to center is a practice that you can do in all times, at all times, in all places, and in every circumstance. A little bit of stress comes up, moving from stress to center. Aikido life lesson number 1. Now I'm going to say 1, 2, and 3 because I'm kind of I'm teaching these today in kind of a linear sequence. But remember, it's not always linear. Yeah, so it's fine. It doesn't have to be a linear sequence. When it comes to principles are always in the now, so they can all arise at the same time. But developmentally speaking, it is helpful for us to do this in a linear sequence. Because if I don't move from stress to center, any type of relating that I do is going to be stress-based relating, rather than center-based relating. So that first life lesson, the first thing we do in Aikido, is to move from stress to center in the midst of conflict. Life lesson number 2. From center to connection. So once we've kind of gone from stress to center, we've established ourselves in our center, then we begin to move outward into connection. Connection with what? Well, first connection with everything, but primarily connection with the source of the stress. Connection with the source of the conflict, or the cause of the conflict. Connection with the other person. So if I'm in a conflict or in a stressful situation, and I connect or relate to the other person from stress, it's going to perpetuate conflict. It's going to perpetuate the stress, and it's going to perpetuate my responses. I can do a fight, flight, freeze response, or some type of emotional response. It's not even a response; it's a reaction. Fight, flight, freeze reaction, or some type of emotional reaction, only becomes perpetuated if I'm acting or speaking from stress. But in that first practice in Aikido, when I move from stress to center, then I'm in a place of choice, and I can actually choose how I'm going to relate to that person. And I relate to them primarily from my center, primarily from awareness, primarily from mindfulness. Nadia just says it is similar to a mediation process. I'm sorry, yeah, Nadia, it's actually similar to a meditation process, but you wrote mediation. Nadia Galit is a good friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. Hi, Nadia, nice to see you. She lives in Switzerland, the French part of Switzerland, and she's a mediator. She's also a fantastic Aikidoka, even an Aikido teacher, and she's also doing mediation practice. Thank you, Nadia. It's beautiful to see your comment. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I hope to see you next month in Switzerland when I'm there. Yeah, it's very similar to the mediation process. You know, Nadia, there's a saying from needy change facilitators that the impact of any type of facilitation or the impact of any type of intervention, I guess we could even say the impact of any type of mediation is 100% determined by the interior of the mediator or the interior of the facilitator or the interior of the change facilitator. So yes, I agree with you completely that it's similar to the mediator process. And Nadia goes on to write here. She says, as mediator, we lead people into this process. Beautiful. Thank you, Nadia, for that. I see Matthew Miranda has joined us. Onegai shimasu, Mr. Matthew. Great to see you. So just a review. Life lesson number 1, from stress to center. Life lesson number 2, from center to connection. So we need to, once we've established ourselves in connection, in center, then we begin to connect. So and there's tons of great exercises. There's tons of great practices for this. I'm not talking about practices in this Facebook Live, but just these 3 life lessons. 3 life lessons. The practices that we there's listening practices, there's intuitive awareness practices, there are emotional intelligence practices. In Aikido, there's sensing and feeling practices. Any type of really connection practices that we're doing is. You want to come say hello? I'm still on Facebook. You come here, my daughter. She can't. You want to come say hello? No, I want to start with the Okay, I'll be done in just a second. Okay. Okay. So Okay, you want to say hi? Come here and say hi. Hi. Wait a second. This is my daughter Yoel. Can you see your face? Yeah. Okay, you want to go back with mommy and open the presents? Okay. I open. There's also my running pepper that pig. Okay, so go there with mommy. Leave that here. Okay, we're done now. Okay, I'll be done in 5 minutes, okay? Yeah, sorry. This is I guess every parent can understand how it goes. So once we've established ourselves in center, life lesson number 1, from stress to center. Life lesson number 2 is, Kelly says, hello, Yoel. Hey, thanks, Kelly. Kelly knows Yoel because she jumps in quite a bit. David Warden knows Yoel as well. Yeah, let's see here. David says hello. Kelly says she's getting so big. She is, Kelly. Yeah, she's 4.5 now. Yeah, this is an important stage for her that she gets her half birthday. Anyways, life lesson number 1, from stress to center. Life lesson number 2, from center to connection. Yeah, so it's like in the mediation process. As you're centered, when you connect with the source of stress, the source of conflict, it changes. It changes everything. And there's lots of wonderful practices. From stress to center, we have tons of practices in Aikido and other arts. From center to connection, we have tons of practices that are also in Aikido and other disciplines. So life lesson number 2 is from center to connection. Now here's the thing. Anytime you lose the capacity to connect, then you go back. You just go back and turn inward and work on connection. Remember, connection is an inward, centering is an inward practice. I focus on the inside. Connection is taking that inner centeredness or mindfulness and extending it outward into the space between you and the other person. So it is kind of an inside, but it's outside of me, but inside of us. That's why it's connection. If there's a disconnection, there's no us, there's no we. If it's a connection, then there's a we, And to that we, there's an inside. Okay, so that's kind of the inner space where we do our Aikido practice. Life lesson number 1, from stress to center. Life lesson number 2, from center to connection. Life lesson number 3, from connection to harmony. Another way we can say it is from connection to wholeness. Now, this is a tricky thing. So really to get to the point where harmony or wholeness can be the result of conflict, the byproduct, the result of conflict done well. To get to the point where harmony or wholeness can be the result of conflict, we need to be connected. If you're not connected, you'll never achieve harmony. If you're not centered, you cannot connect. And if we're in stress, you can't be centered. Now, all that gets reversed when you begin with centering. Because when you're centered, you're no longer in stress. Stress is in you. There's a big flip, yeah? So we go from being in stress, when I move to center, and stress is in me, more or less. And the more I stay centered, the more that stress will start to kind of resolve itself and disappear. Then from center, I go to connection, life lesson number 2. From deeper and deeper connection. Now, the important thing is I can connect with you, but until you connect with me, until that connection is reciprocated, there is no harmony. And there's nothing that I can do to make you connect with me. It's just impossible. There's nothing you can do to make me connect with you. But when one of us is centered and available for connection, it has a beautiful effect on the other person. There's something called mirror neurons. That the state of my mind, you can even say the state of my brain, the state of my nervous system, has an effect on the person that I'm in conflict with, has an effect on the person that's in stress, that I'm in stress with. Or if I'm the one that's stressful, if I'm the one that's in conflict, and the other person is really centered and really authentic, and they're not putting any type of fuel on the fire, I automatically start to chill and kind of resonate with them. You could call this mirror neuron connection. You could call it in just some type of resonance that we reach. But we begin to go into entrainment. We begin to entrain. You know, if you've ever seen a metronome, tick, 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 going at one pace, and then another metronome over here going tick, 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 because of the vibration that they kind of entrain into through the table or through the surface that they're sitting on, within a short time, those metronomes will start to synchronize. Tick, 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 tick. Even though they started in very different rhythms, they synchronize together. So when we're authentically in our center and available for connection, it may take a little time, but it automatically has an effect on the other person. And as the other person begins to center and authentically connect with us, then we enter into some type of deeper awase, deeper blending, deeper oneness, deeper entrainment, and harmony automatically begins to happen. Or you could also say that wholeness begins to happen. It does take two to tango, just like in tango. It takes two to tango, just like in Aikido. You can use your Aikido in a very harmonious, effective way. You know, even martially effective way. David says, great idea with the metronome. Yeah, me too. I love it. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but maybe I'll post it here. It's quite fascinating. You can have 20 metronomes, and within a minute or something, all 20 of them are completely, moving in synchronicity. So to go into this place where we reach true harmony, and I'm not trying to define what true harmony is, but when you're in true harmony, you know you're in true harmony. And when the other person is in true harmony with you, they know it, you know it, it's just crystal clear. There's no sense of separation or dissynchronization, if that's a word. It's completely there. You become fully entrained or fully harmonized together. I don't do it to you. You don't do it to me. It just kind of happens through that process of being centered, available, and connecting with the other person. David also says something about Feldenkrais. See metronome in my Feldenkrais training when we all start to move in sync. Yeah, beautiful. That's awesome. Another thing, David, I like, for example, I've noticed in a class, I'm teaching or another person's teaching, another teacher, and if we're doing technical training, there tends to be, a lot of bumps and people stepping on toes and stuff like that. But when we move into principle training and everybody starts to shift into that same type of feeling, let's say from center to connection, and the whole room is moving into connection. Then my 4-year-old daughter, Yoel, she can run around on the mat with 90 people on the mat, and it's perfectly safe. Everybody's in trained. Everybody's synchronized. Everybody's doing different stuff, but the group is suddenly moved into the space that can only be described as harmonious flow. So that's what happens through those 3 life lessons. And again, these are not necessarily linear, but developmentally speaking, if I'm kind of PTSD with a lot of stress, or just normal, I've got to do some practice to really develop more and more centering. Sorry, we're having a small family gathering in the other room. So I've got to do a lot of training to get more and more established in my center. I'm more identified with my center than I am with the stress. So from stress to center is life lesson number 1. Take some practice. Life lesson number 2, from center to connection, also takes more practice. It's the most natural thing in the world, but it can take practice. It can take practice. It can take practice. And the quality of connection that I have with my wife's sister, my daughter, my other daughter, David Warden or Kelly or Mandy and who else is there? Matthew, Miranda. The quality of connection is always the same, but the quality has its uniqueness depending on who it is that we're connecting with, and certainly if there's stress or conflict. So life lesson number 2, from center to connection, and life lesson number 3, from connection to harmony, in a way, is the byproduct of everything done well. Kelly wrote, she added here, how I think of the video of Yola and another little fellow. That was Netta, her friend Netta. They were both 3 years old back then. They were running around through 90 people in full principle-based Jiawaza at the Dead Sea Seminar. Maybe a dog, the dog was there too. That's awesome, Kelly. Yeah, that was kind of the culmination of the Dead Sea Seminar, the last Dead Sea Seminar. We finished it off with Patrick Cassidy Sensei and I. We were teaching, and we finished it off with this big, I think we were doing Jiawazas every day, but some cool music going, and we were just and 90 people in a tight Bedouin tent doing this amazing jiwas in the middle of the desert, and the kids were laughing and having the greatest time. And no, it wasn't. It was completely safe. Cool. So that's it. Like, if you guys have any questions, I've got a little bit of time to stick around and answer them, but I'll just repeat these 3 life lessons. I said a lot, and you can, and for those of you that are practicing, if you're watching this video later, you understand that there's a lot to do with Aikido practice. But these life lessons are super simple. Life lesson number 1 from Aikido, from stress to center. Life lesson number 2 from Aikido, from center to connection. Life lesson number 3, Aikido, from connection to harmony. These 3 life lessons can be practiced at all times. You really don't need anything. You can do it. Like Kotegashi, we do in the dojo. If somebody attacks me, heaven forbid, they're very conditional. But these 3 life lessons can be practiced at all times. These 3 life lessons can be practiced in all times, all places. You don't even need special clothes. You can practice them. You don't need any clothes. You can practice them naked. All places, here, there, everywhere. In Tel Aviv with my daughter, at the dojo, at the beach, in Utah, wherever. All times, all places, and these 3 life lessons can be practiced in all circumstances. From stress to center, from center to connection, from connection to harmony. 3 life lessons in Aikido to be practiced at all times, in all places, and through all circumstances, and they will bring about a transformation. Mandy Barber says, calm energy expands outward. Indeed it does. And you can even say stressful energy also expands outward. So, our big question as Aikidoka, as spiritual warriors, is, are we going to be an expansion of stressful energy, or are we going to be an expansion of calm energy? Great. We have a couple of questions here. Let's see. Kelly has a quick question, so I will just answer quickly. Let's see. She says, can you relate this Facebook Live to the 3-part video on centering that just posted to with from, I think was the last. Yeah, great, Kelly. I'm going to mention this about the 3-part video series. It's kind of a gift that I have for you guys today. But in the third video in that one it's just a way to help us, being centered is a state. And it's not a solid state. I mean, in nature, I suppose a tree is always centered. Even when a hurricane blows a tree away, it still kind of has its center. But for you and I, we get up in our heads and we get emotionally challenged or whatever, and we kind of get out of our center. So the third video in this kind of video tutorial, this free tutorial on centering, is from the center, with the center, to the center. And it's simply, I explained it well in the video. It's just in a way creating a mantra when we practice that. I start with my center, I take action with my center, and I complete my action with my center. From the center, with the center, to the center. And that little mantra, from the center, with the center, to the center, is something to help us kind of constantly remind ourselves, before I begin to center, as I'm in action, center, and when I finish also center. And like I said, Kelly, this is, there's tons of practices for these 3 life lessons. That's one of them. But that practice would be the practice from stress to center. The first life lessons from stress to center. Thanks. Cool question. Let's see what Daniel says. Maybe it's just a comment here. Daniel says, wonderful to leave this important life lesson with your beginners. Even if they don't stay with Aikido, they take some. That's great. Yeah. By the way, if you guys are ever teaching beginners courses, I frame my beginners course with these 3 life lessons. And I even say, at the end of it, there's a Chinese saying, teacher for a day is a teacher for a lifetime. Now, whether that's a real saying or not, I don't know, but I've actually heard it. Teacher for a day is a teacher for a lifetime. And even though in the 4-week course, we do 4 or 6 classes together, I say, that these techniques that you learn about Aikido, they won't mean much for the rest of your life. But if you can take these 3 life lessons, from stress to center, from center connection, and from connection to harmony, they will stay with you for a lifetime. So, yeah, that's something to take away, and it's well worth the price of admission. Like everything in Aikido, the real value of Aikido is so priceless, so precious. And, that, and I guess the only thing that it really costs is our commitment to that. You could say commitment to practice, but even if you don't practice, a commitment to, kind of what is more authentic and natural. So those are the 3 life lessons from Aikido: from stress to center, from center to connection, from connection to harmony. This video is part of a multi-part series that I'm doing on Aikido and the evolution of response. I did Aikido and the survival instinct, Aikido and delayed gratification, and then I did Aikido and something else, centering, whatever. Forgive me, but those are on my blog. You see the videos here. As in the previous Facebook Lives, I also have a free gift for you in this one. Kelly already mentioned it, but I posted below this video. You'll see it linked. A 3-part video tutorial on centering. If it's not below this video, or if you're looking at this video somewhere else, just go to theintegraldojo.com/centering. theintegraldojo.com/centering. It is a free 3-part tutorial on centering in Aikido. And there are practices that we use in Aikido, but you don't even need to be in Aikido to do that. So that's great. Dave Warden says, but you need to be able to apply these 3 lessons, which needs practice. Amen, brother. I'm with you completely. Enjoyed this live video today. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it for today. Go register go get your free tutorial. It's over there, integraldojo.com/centering. Look below. And I will be continuing for a few more weeks in this series of Aikido at the evolution of response. We are moving up the ladder. All right, everybody. All the best. Love you. And talk to you soon.